Hello and welcome. My name is Aaliyah, and I'm going to be your guide through today's heart opener flow. We're going to take our time in each pose, and we're going to bring a little self love and compassion to ourselves to cultivate love for ourselves so that we can be open to receive and give love to others. Throughout our flow, we're going to take several breaths in each pose before moving on to the next. Once we come to the end, we will end in constructive rest or shavasana. This is a time where you will be able to lie in a comfortable position with your eyes closed or open, just taking a few moments of silence for yourself. I will guide you through the first half of Shavasana, and then I will allow you to take the rest that you need or want. So let's just begin to come into a comfortable seated position and just bring awareness to what our breath is currently doing. At this time, I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable, or just lower your gaze towards the floor. Just bringing awareness of what's going on within our body. Being curious without judgment. Listening to what our body is holding on to or what our body might need to let go of. Feeling how our breath moves through our body. At this time, I invite you to bring your hands over your heart center and begin to inhale for a count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold the breath for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and exhale for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Continue to inhale for 5 and just feel your chest rise as you inhale the air and hold up top for 5. Just filling the air in the walls of your chest and lungs. And exhale for 7, allowing all that air to release from the body, allowing your chest to fall. Perfect. Inhale for 5. Holding at the top. And exhale for 7. Let's do that one more time together. Inhale for 5. Holding at the top. And exhale for 7. Lovely. If you had your eyes closed, begin to slowly blink them open. We're going to first lengthen out our neck. So let's take our neck over to our left side of the body. Keeping with our breath, breathing at our own pace. Coming back into center, taking our chin down to the chest. Lengthening through the back neck. Coming back to center. Going over to our right. And back to center. Taking our head back to the back of the room, lifting our chest. And coming back to the center. This time, starting over to the right, taking the ear down to the shoulder, lengthening through the side of the neck, letting the shoulders relax, coming back into center, taking the chin down to the chest, and coming back to the center. Over to the left, taking the ear down to the shoulder, lengthening through that shoulder blade, and coming back to the center. Finally, taking that head back to the back of the room, lifting the chin towards the sky, letting the chest follow. And releasing back to the center. Taking our wrists, circling around, big circles. Letting our fingers maybe wiggle a little. Just allowing that blood to flow through our arms, our wrists, and taking it in the opposite direction. Big circles. Feeling the arm movement through our forearms and elbows. Maybe even a little in our shoulders. Relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. Perfect. And coming to a tabletop position on our mat, we're going to take our wrist underneath our shoulders, taking our knees underneath our hips and having our hips about 2 fists apart. We're going to begin by just rolling the toes underneath, stretching them out, and then pressing the tops of the feet down into the mat. Perfect. And roll the toes underneath, pressing them down into the mat, stretching through the toes. And while we're doing this, we're still wanting to activate through our hands, pressing the palms down into the mat, pressing the floor away from us, letting our shoulders expand and release. Take the tops of the feet, place them back in the floor. Now take this time and maybe roll one ankle. And if our knees become too uncomfortable, we can always roll our mat underneath our knees or take a blanket opposite direction and pat the knees if needed. Perfect. Opposite foot, roll it in one direction. Still engaging here through our hands as well as our core. Pulling our belly button opposite direction into our spine, keeping with the breath. Neutral spine. Lovely. Taking that foot back down to the mat. Let's inhale. Tuck in the chin, rolling the shoulders, rounding, pressing the hips forward for cat. Exhale, let the belly and chest fall down to the floor, lifting through the crown, lifting through the chest for cow. Inhale, round everything, pressing the hips forward, pressing the floor away. Exhale, lift the crown, relax the shoulders, allow the belly and the chest to fall down to the floor. Inhale, cat. Exhale, cow. Maybe picking up the pace here a little. Maybe finding some extra movement in our cat and cow. Just allowing our body to flow how we feel comfortable flowing, moving to our own breath and our own pace. Coming back into tabletop position. We're going to press the hips into the heels, extending through into child's pose, pressing the hands down into the mat, spreading through the fingertips. And lifting into plank position, pressing the hips forward down to the floor, pressing through our hands, spreading through our fingertips. And lift and press back into child's pose, exhaling all the air out. Inhale to rise, lifting into plank position, allowing the hips to fall towards the floor, but keeping a neutral spine. Squeezing through the glutes, pressing the floor away. Exhale, press back into child's pose. Still engaging through our hands, allowing the hips to press back into our feet and hips. Inhale, plank. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, come back to tabletop position. Taking the hands underneath the shoulders if they were adjusted. We're going to take our left foot out to the outside of our hands and heel toe them into the middle. We're going to lift and press the hips forward for low lunge. Hands option to come heart center or to lift. Holding here in low lunge, grounding through that front foot, allowing the knee to stack over top of the ankles. Hips are facing towards the top of the mat. The top of our foot is pressed down into the mat. Shoulders are relaxed, the fingertips are reaching up towards the sky. And exhale, allow the shoulders to fall, elbows to fall down to the floor, but we're really pressing, squeezing those shoulder blades back down and together, lifting through the chest. Yes. Coming back, hands come heart center, press together, twist, and rotate. Lunge, twisted lunge. Pressing that elbow into the top of that thigh, rotating through our torso, keeping the chest nice and lifted. Opening up that lunge, taking that top foot towards the edge of the mat if we need a little more space to help us balance. Inhale, come back into center. Option for blocks as we go into half split. Press the hips back towards the back of the mat. Allow the heart to melt down into the chest. Pressing through the heel, just allowing that back of the leg to lengthen out. Shoulders are down and relaxed. Finding our breath. Allowing each breath to maybe find just a little more space, just a little more grace. Inhale to rise. Heel toe that foot back out to the edge of the mat. Rotate it back to the back of the mat. Press the hips back down, child's pose. Maybe opening the knees towards the edge of the mat, allowing the belly and chest to fall through. Pressing through the hand, lifting the elbows. Really activating by pressing through our hands and activating those shoulders. Letting the third eye rest down on the mat, or option to stack a block underneath. Taking 2 more big breaths here. Inhaling, filling our chest with air. Exhaling, letting our body sink in just a little further. Inhale. Exhale. And our next inhale, we're going to rise back into tabletop position. Bringing that right foot up to the outside, heel toeing into the center, pressing the hips forward, rising. Options for hands to heart center or lift. Allowing that knee to stack on top of the ankle, grounding through that front foot, pressing all 4 corners into the ground, pressing the top of the foot into that back of the mat, really engaging through that back leg as it extends. Allowing the shoulders to melt down, but fingers are lifted. Now pulling the elbows down to the floor, lifting through the chest, cactusing the arms, allowing the heart to lift towards the sky. Filling ourselves with light and love. Bring the hands back to heart center, rotating through and twisting. Pressing the elbow down into the leg, opening up through the heart. Coming back through the center, option for blocks. Letting the hips press back as that front leg extends out towards the top of the mat. Allowing the heart to melt down towards the top of the thigh. Finding breath, finding space. Keeping those hips pointed to the top of the mat. Toe is pointed towards the sky. Inhale to rise. Heel toe that foot out towards the edge of the mat. Hurdle that leg back. Taking our hips back into child's pose. Allowing the hips to meet the heels. Allowing the third eye to meet the mat. Engaging through. Pressing the palms into the mat, spreading through the fingertips. Keeping the elbows lifted. Finding our breath. Two more big breaths here. Last big breath. And our next inhale. Lift the hips. Press the heels down towards the mat. Allowing the hips to rise towards the sky. Still engaging through our front hands, spreading through the fingertips. Maybe taking the option to bend the knees. The focus is to keep the hips lifted towards the sky, keeping a neutral spine.
Maybe taking the option to pedal through the feet, lengthening through our calves. Keeping the crown long and extended down towards the mat. Two more big breaths here, allowing the calves to press back down to the floor. They don't have to touch. Feeling the breath as it inhales into the body. Next, inhale. Lift the left leg up towards the sky. Pull the knee into the chest, allowing that front foot to come in between the front hands. Option to come up to our knee, and then option for hands heart center or lift. High crescent lunge. Extending through that back hip flexor, pressing through the ball of the foot. Hips are pointed towards the front of the mat, allowing the shoulders to relax down, pressing or lifting through the fingertips. Gaze is out front. Taking a big breath, grounding through that entire front foot. Pulling the elbows down, allowing the chest to lift, cactusing the arms, lifting the chest towards the sky, feeling the light and the love. Extending the arms, rotating that back foot 45 degrees to the top of the mat. Extend the arms out towards the front and the back of the room. Allow the hips to open towards the long side of the mat. Still pressing and grounding through that front foot, allowing that knee to stack over top of that ankle, but still grounding and pressing through that back leg. Finding whatever feels comfortable for you, maybe extending that back foot out, or taking that front foot out towards the edge of the mat. Finding what's comfortable for you in your body, allowing the shoulders to relax, but engaging through the fingertips, extending, allowing the hips to stay in the center. Next, exhale, lift the arm up, taking the back arm down the leg, lifting the chest up towards the sky. Smile. Reverse warrior. Bending through the side of the body, still engaging through that front hip, pressing that back foot all the way through each four corners. Finding our breath. Inhale, allow the front elbow to drop to the inside of that front thigh. Extending that top arm over top. Pinky faces up towards the sky. Option for a block behind, or option to lengthen through. Keeping that bend in the front knee, really extending that energy from that back foot all the way out through our pinky for side angle. Windmill the arms back open, back into warrior two. Gaze is over the front of the tops of the fingers. Still pressing through that front hip, grounding through the foot, extending through that back leg, taking a 45-degree angle. Hips are open towards the long edge of the mat. Shoulders are relaxed, but arms are extended out to each side. Next, inhale, rotate the back foot, come back to a high crescent lunge. Hands come to heart center. Step forward. Inhale, lift the arms. Tadasana, exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Hands come to the shins or thighs. Extending through the crown, allowing a neutral spine. Exhale, forward fold. Flowing through our vinyasa. Option to take the knees for chaturanga. Lifting into cobra or up dog. And all meeting back into downward dog. Taking 3 big breaths here. Allowing the hips to lift up towards the sky. Our feet are pressing down. Our heels are pressing down towards the mat. Neutral spine. Option to bend the knees. Keeping the crown long, tucked inside the arms. Neutral spine. Next, inhale, lift the right leg. Inhale, bring the leg up towards the top of the mat, hands frame. Lift into high crescent lunge. Options for hands heart center or lift it. Pressing through all 4 corners of our front foot. Really extending back through that back leg. Pressing into that back ball of the foot, keeping the heel lifted. Hips are forward facing the top of the mat. Exhale. Extend or bring the elbows down towards the mat. Lift the chest. Cactus the arms. Bringing in self-compassion and self-love. Bringing the hands out and extending, rotating that back heel, dropping it down to the floor, toes facing the top corner of our mat, extending open into warrior two. Gaze is over top of the fingertips. Hips are open towards the long edge of the mat. Bending that front knee, stacking it over top of the ankle, or taking less of a bend. That's an option as well. Finding what warrior two works well in your body. Finding our breath. Paying attention as our chest rises and it falls. Inhale, lift the arm. Taking our gaze up towards the top of the fingertips. Allowing that back arm to extend down to the floor. Keeping the chest lifted, smile, embracing our reverse warrior. Extending through the toes, maybe taking that front foot towards the outer edge of the mat, finding a wider base for our warrior. Windmill the arms up to the front of the room, taking that elbow, tucking it, extending the top arm over top of the head, pinky faces up, option for a block. Really engaging through that side angle. Feeling that energy pressing through the back of the foot all the way through the top of the pinky. Finding our breath. Next inhale, windmill the arms back open, warrior two. Hips are over the center of our mat. Extending the arms in both directions, but keeping our body centered, taking that gaze over top of the front of the arm. Shoulders are relaxed. Maybe deepening that front leg, really extending through that warrior two. Big inhale, rotate. Back foot, high crescent lunge. Step forward. Arms raise. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Hands come to the shins or the thighs. Extending through the crown. Neutral spine. Exhale down to the floor. Hands don't have to touch. We're just reaching down towards the floor. Flowing through our vinyasa. Taking our options. Option for knees for chaturanga. Option for cobra or up dog. And meeting back in downward dog. Pressing our heels down to the floor. Taking 3 big breaths here. Neutral spine. Hips are lifted. Pressing the palms into the ground, lengthening through our fingertips. Next, inhale, lift the heel towards the sky. Take the knee, bring it into the left elbow and back up and across to the right elbow. Knee comes heel comes high and lift knee to nose, hand comes out in front. Rotate that back foot towards the corner of the mat. Standing up, hands come heart center or lift for warrior one. Shoulders are relaxed. Eye gaze is out front. Hips are facing towards the front of the mat. Option to take a wider stance or shorten that warrior. Inhale, press the front, hip back. Option for blocks as we melt the heart into the upper thigh for pyramid pose. Allowing the head to extend down to the floor. Hips are still facing towards the top of the mat. Option for a micro bend in that front leg. Inhale. We're going to rotate towards the front or the long way of our mat. Coming into a straddle. Allowing the head and hands to come down to the floor. Bending at the elbows. Lengthening through the backs of our legs. Lifting hands on the hips. Neutral spine. And slowly lifting our body up. Heels come in towards the inside of the mat. Toes are pointing to the outside. Exhale. Lower the hips down to the floor. Knees come over top of the ankles. Goddess pose. Lift through the chest. Exhale and rise. Rotate back to the front of the mat. Crescent lunge. Hands can come heart center or lift. Cactus the arms. Lift through the chest for self-love. Soften through the front hip. Lift the back leg. Option to grab at the ankle or arch of the foot. Press the foot into the back of your palm, lifting front arm through the fingertips, lifting up towards the sky. Option to lift through the chest for dancer. Giving ourselves some grace and love. Finding new self-awareness. New growth. Exhale, lower the leg. Big inhale. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, halfway lift. Extend through the crown. Exhale, forward fold. Flow through vinyasa. Take option for knees for chaturanga. Cobra or up dog. Finding ourselves back into downward dog. 3 big breaths. Pressing the heels down to the floor, extending up through the hips, up towards the sky, neutral spine. Grounding through the hands. Big last breath. On our next inhale, right heel lifts up towards the sky. Inhale, knee comes to the right elbow. Left knee comes to the left elbow. Lift. Knee comes to nose. Hand comes in between our hands. allowing that back foot to kiss the earth. Toes are pointed towards the top of the top corner of the mat. Hands to heart center or lift for warrior one. Option to widen our warrior, taking that foot towards the outside of the mat, or option to shorten our warrior. Finding our breath. Cactus the arms, pulling the elbows down to the floor, lifting the chest. Gaze lifts up towards the sky. Pressing the front hip back to the back of the room, allowing the chest to melt down to the thigh. Pyramid pose. Keeping with the breath. Allowing the chest to melt into the thigh. Hands rested on the block. Inhale to rise. Open up into straddle, taking the feet towards the corner of the mat. Taking the hands down into the center. Allowing our head to fall down. Taking the hands to our hips, lifting, extending through the neck, neutral spine. Inhale, rise. Taking the toes to the corner of the mat, bringing the heels inside. Press down to the floor for goddess squat, allowing the chest to rise. Allowing the sun to lift on our heart, bringing a smile on our face. Exhale, lift, rotate back to the front of the mat, crescent lunge, hands to heart center. Soften through the front hip, lift the back foot, pressing the back foot into the hand, enter dancer. Keeping the chest lifted, extending the front hand up towards the sky, pressing that back foot into the hand. Finding grace, finding space. Finding a smile. Exhale, lower the leg towards the mat. Big inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Flowing through vinyasa. Taking the option for knees for chaturanga, cobra or up dog. Meeting back into downward dog. Finding 3 big breaths here. Pressing the heels down towards the mat. Neutral spine. Pressing through our hands, evenly distributing the weight through our hands and our feet. Next, inhale, lower the knees down to the floor. Taking the tops of the feet, planting them back into the mat. Option to roll the mat underneath our knees or grab a blanket. Taking our hands, placing them in our back pockets, squeezing the elbows together, lifting through the chest, finding camel. Option to continue to lengthen, reaching down for our heels, taking our hands to our heels or arches. Finding love, finding grace, finding space. Inhale, release the hands, pressing the hips down into the heels, maybe taking the knees to the outer edge of the mat, allowing the chest and belly to fall through, pressing through our palms, spreading through our fingertips, pressing the elbows away, allowing our third eye to meet the earth, finding our breath. Our next inhale, lifting, taking our knees to one edge of the mat, coming down to our sits bones. We're going to extend the left leg out, keeping the right leg either inside or bringing it across, taking the hand, the left hand, hugging the knee in or hooking the elbow on the outside as we twist for seated twist, finding, some more space if we want with our back hand. I guess my twist is helping with my digestion of my dinner. Coming back to center, allowing the opposite leg to spread out, taking that left leg, tucking it in to the inside or taking it over top of the knee, hugging that left knee in or taking that right elbow, hooking it on the outside and twisting. Option to find more space by extending that back hand towards the back of the mat. Finding our breath. Inhale, come back to center. Extend both legs out. Bend at the knees. We're going to roll down to the mat one vertebrae at a time, allowing the shoulders to meet the mat. Taking our feet grounding into the earth, we're going to press through the soles of our feet, lifting our hips up to the sky. Taking our hands, interlocking our fingers, pressing our hands down to our feet, stretching through the chest and the shoulders as we lift and squeeze our glutes up to the sky, pulling the belly button into our spine for bridge. Keep with the breath. Beaming that chest up towards the sky. Our next exhale, release the hips down to the earth, releasing the hands. Pulling our knees into the chest, we're going to take our two peace fingers, wrapping them around our big toe. Just giving ourselves a little back massage. Rotating side to side. Pulling the knees in to the inside, taking our arms out to a T position. We're going to take the knees down towards the right side of our body and pull the knees back into the center of our mat, slowly lowering them down to the left, coming back into the center and back to the right. Option to extend the legs out and lift, or option to keep the knees bent. One more big breath. And coming back into the center, pull the knees in, wrap the arms around the outside of the knees, giving ourselves a big hug, big squeeze, maybe rocking side to side, giving ourselves a final back massage, loving on ourselves. Finding that breath. Allowing the legs to come back down to the mat. We're going to come into our constructive rest. Option to take the feet towards the outside of the mat, allowing the knees to rest and towards the middle. Or option to bring our feet towards the inside of the mat, allowing our knees to come out towards the edge of the mat. Or option to extend the legs long and arms open, finding as much space as we want. Also option to take our hands over the heart as we begin our final Shavasana. I want you to just begin to lower your gaze or close your eyes if you feel comfortable. I want you to find a nice, relaxing breath. Just begin to bring awareness back to the breath. Letting the air just fill your lungs with air. Allowing that breath to flow through your body. Allowing that breath to begin to relax the wrinkle in your forehead through your eyebrows. Allowing your eyebrows just to fall heavy down towards the ears. Maybe keeping a slight smile on your face. Admiring how much love you cultivated for yourself today. But allowing the jaw to become loose and relaxed. Allowing some space. Allowing the neck to become heavy. Your shoulders heavy into the earth. Allowing the earth to take over the weight of your body. Filling your chest as it fills with air as your heart beats for life, for love,
for light, for grace, for space. Allowing your arms and hands to become heavy as they melt into the mat. Allowing the earth to take the weight of your back, your hips, your thighs, your feet, as they all become one with the earth, as you begin to pay attention to the breath. Allowing the thoughts to fade away. And if one comes up, acknowledge, smile, and let it drift. Begin to just pay attention to the breath and your few moments of silence. The next time you hear my voice, I will be bringing you Adho Shavasana. Begin to bring awareness back to your body. Begin by bringing awareness back to the breath. Allowing yourself to wiggle your toes and your fingers. Allowing the blood to begin to circulate back into the limbs. Feeling your arms and legs come back. Maybe rolling the arms and legs side to side. Allowing awareness to come back into the chest, the belly, and hips.
Maybe at this time, opening your eyes, or maybe choosing to stay in constructive rest just a little longer. Taking your next inhale and rolling either to the left or to the right in fetal position. Staying here for a breath or two. Allowing your body to come back into your preferred seated position. Finding that final relaxation. Bringing your hands into your preferred hand mudra, or taking the time to bring your hands back to heart center, back to where we begin, back to self-love. Thank you for taking the time to practice with me today. I enjoyed our flow together, and I hope to see you back real soon. Namaste. Thank you.